Okay, so as you can see, I got cut off there, and we're on the second video. Sorry it's taking me so long to get through these assignments, but it'll be worth having my extra detail and feedback on these. So sorry it's been 45 minutes since I stopped recording, so I'm gonna have to remember kind of where I was at. I think I was just simply getting to how obviously in step two you're doing these sections and summarizing them, even though one or two of them here are the same as the passage that you did in step one. Same thing for step three, where some of your groups, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groupings, some of the groupings, as you see up here, are tied to a single verse, or a section. So group three is tied to only section 5, and group 4 is tied to only section 6. So your group 3 and 4 is obviously going to be very similar to section 5 and 6, if not the exact same thing. So I'm okay if you put the exact same thing. You might, if you want to change your wording in the grouping where you're basically saying the same thing as you said, for instance, in group 3, if you want to say basically the same thing that you said in section 5, because it's the exact same verses, but you want to maybe change the terminology to reflect how you did the groupings in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's fine, but ultimately they're not going to change if the sections are the same verses as the groupings. Okay. Then in step 4, obviously, you're answering these questions based upon your summaries in step 3. Provide a one-sentence summary of the entire book of Romans, not using outside resource. You can find the summary statement of the book of Romans in any commentary or study Bible. Usually, I want this to be your own words. And then 2, now read Romans 12, 1-2 over again, and 12, 1-2 or 12, 1-3. I mean, I'm seeing that at least on this page we had 12, 1-2 all the way through. So I'm okay if it's just 12, 1-2. You don't have to use 12, 1-3 unless you want to. But explain how it fits into the larger message of the book in 3 to 5 sentences. So that's not one sentence here. Here it's one sentence. Down here it's in 3 to 5 sentences. Explain how this little passage fits into the larger message of the book of Romans now that you've done all of this. So that is all it takes to adequately give a message on the section. Now, this doesn't have to reflect how you do a Bible study or message on Romans 12, 1-2. But, for instance, you guys should now, after doing an exercise like this, you should seriously be able to simply give, your whole lesson could be, here's Romans 12, 1-2 in light of what's happening in Romans. So that could be a message or a Bible study just in and of itself, doing that. So have fun with that. That is your assignment 5-1, and that is due week 6. That is group work, and that you can divide up amongst yourselves. So now 5-2, the word study. This is not group work. This is going to be complete assignments 9-1 from GGW page 184 to 185 using the word study worksheet. So if you go into your your textbook, Grasping God's Word, and you'll see in the back of chapter 9, this week in your reading, you had to read chapter 8 and chapter 9. So chapter 9 is on word studies, and in the back there, it'll have these questions to do, assignment 9-1, and you're going to be using the word study worksheets to answer those questions. So let me open up the word study worksheet right here. So this is a little confusing off first glance, but it's actually very straightforward if you simply open up 9-1 in Grasping God's Word and then compare it to this. You will need Grasping God's Word in order to do this assignment, because we don't have all the questions that are in 9-1 written in here. Let me read this and then I'll explain more. So you're going to complete it using the Grasping God's Word 9.1 assignment. So there's assignments in the back of each chapter. We typically don't have you do them, obviously, but in this case we are having you do the assignment in 9.1. But you only need this worksheet to complete the assignment. You're only filling out this worksheet for the assignment. You don't need a separate page that you type up those questions or anything. You're going to report your answers using the table below. Please note some of the questions from the assignments in GGW have been amended and some questions have been added. For your own ease and accuracy in this assignment, please use the NIV Bible. You can look it up online using Bible Gateway, another resource, or a print version if you have it. The online resources needed to complete this assignment can all be found at blueletterbible.org. So just go to that link to find other online resources that you need for this assignment. Okay, so if you go open your book right now to assignment 9.1 in Grasping God's Word. It has 11 questions in total, kind of, but it's broken down into 4 main questions, which is why it has 1, 2, 3, 4, then A, B, C, D, and so forth. So if you look at those questions, number 1 says, use the concordance to answer the following questions about Acts 1:8. That's what it says in the Grasping God's Word, number 1. You can't know that that's the question unless you have Grasping God's Word and the textbook in front of you answering those questions. So then here's your answer. You need to answer A, says under, so it has number 1, use the concordance to answer the following questions about Acts 1:8. A, write out the English transliterated form of the word translated power in Acts 1:8. So that's what you would write. The transliterated word for power goes right there. Okay? Then you see B is down there because that's the next question in Grasping God's Word. How many times does this word occur in the New Testament? And you would fill that in right there. Now, it says in green, we have added some questions for this assignment. Okay, and if we've added a question, we also give the question, meaning the instructions for that question, to the right. All the things grayed out there means that you're just answering the questions directly from how it's stated in Grasping God's Word. So the additional question here would be, what is the Strong's number for this word? And then the additional question there is, what other English words are used to render this word? Provide the top 5. So that is talking about how is the word translated, the Greek word, what are the different ways that it is translated? It's translated power 77 times out of its uses, which is the overwhelming majority of the times it's used. But it's transliterated, or it's translated in other English words. 11 times it's translated what? 7 times what? 4 times what? 3 what? So you're going to need to obviously be looking these things up in a concordance, and obviously that this piece right here, using an online Bible concordance, watching that video is going to be highly helpful to complete this assignment. Now, number 2, you're simply answering, just as it's stated in Grasping God's Word, use the concordance to answer the following questions about Exodus 4:21. A is write out the English transliterated form of the word translated power in Exodus 4:21. That's A. And then B, you're answering the question that has this B. Then we add a question, and the question is, what other English words are used to render this word? So again, you're doing the same thing that you did here, but you're basically answering it out of Exodus, or the Old Testament and the Hebrew, versus the Greek and the New Testament. But then number 3, you're answering the NIV uses the word judge in 1 Corinthians 4:3, 5, and 6:5. Are these the same Greek words? Write out the English transliteration of the 3 Greek words translated as judge in these 3 passages. Please note that judge may be translated as examine or decide in your NIV Bible. That's going to be helpful to know, so you know you're talking about the same word. Note the common root that each of these words share. So anytime you might see a word in your English Bible and you see the word judge in one verse and examine in another, but it might be the exact same Hebrew or Greek word, right? That's what we want to note. It doesn't matter how many times you see the word judge in your New Testament, because you might get a word that's translated judge and a different word that's also translated judge, right? So you're talking about two different words. So if you're trying to make an association, well, you see the word judge here in Peter, and then you see the word judge here in John. So they're obviously talking about the same word. No, they could be talking about two different words. That's why you have to know what the original language is. Because in the original language, you might have two different words, but are both translated the same word, like judge, or you could have the same word in the original language, Greek or Hebrew, but it's translated two different ways in two different passages. So that's why these are using a concordance and doing these things are important. You see the emendation of this question. Instead of providing the number of times Paul uses the word, provide the number of verses in which he uses the word. Because obviously in some verses he'll say the word multiple times. And instead of providing the number of times the word is used in each book, provide the number of verses in which it is used. So that's just a little bit easier for you. And then an additional question in 1 to 2 sentences, explain one thing you have learned about Bible translation, language, Hebrew, Greek, and so forth from doing this exercise. Okay, so that is the word study worksheet, assignment 5-2. That is due by the end of this week. And hold on, I just want to make, oops, sorry, I don't know why that popped up. I'm trying to see how much time I have left on my little video screen here. Yeah, so let me actually just make sure there we go. I've got like 3 minutes left. Okay, so that's 5-2, guys. 5-3, this is your final interpretive paper that's not due until week 8. So I'm just going to briefly go over this. There's no discussion board this week, but I want to briefly go over it so you can at least start working on it, but I'll give more details in the next couple weeks on this. In this assignment, you're going to utilize all the tools learned in this course to create a comprehensive study guide for a selected passage. You're going to choose one of the 4 that you've already studied so far in your previous assignments 3:1, 4, and 5:1. Those verses are Deuteronomy 6:4-9, Proverbs 3, Matthew 5, and Romans 12. So you're going to choose one of these. You get to choose which one you want to do this assignment on. Note, your choice of passage in this course could also carry over to BI 4402, Teaching the Scriptures, where you will create a teachable lesson off of this same text that you will have so that you have so thoroughly studied. Consequently, make sure to choose your passage carefully, as you may later come back to it. All that's saying is if you continue on in our online program, you'll take that course. I don't think that they have the same Teaching the Scriptures course on campus if you're coming to campus to finish your degree. So just keep that into account. They're just kind of tying things in for you. It doesn't really. So ultimately, regardless, just choose the verse that you think you're going to benefit the most out of. It doesn't actually matter which one you do. There's no consequences. For this project, you will present your compiled research on your selected passage into a multi-staged paper that has separate sections that include 7 separate sections, a statement of why you believe interpretation is necessary for accurate and faithful teaching. So basically a summary on that. A description of the passage's genre. So what is the genre and what is that and why this passage is that genre. A key consideration for your genre that you must keep in mind to interpret it properly. So you're saying, what are the key areas of this if you're doing poetic genre? What are the key elements of that in order to interpret it properly? And then a presentation of your observations in the text in similar style to 3:1. So you basically take assignment 3:1 in what you did in 3:1 and you put it to this passage. So if you're doing the same one that you did in 3:1, it would be that way. But if you do a different passage, you have to keep that in mind. I'm running out of time here because I can only do it in 15 minutes. So I'm going to briefly say these. A study upon the historical background of the passage. Again, you're using assignment 4 and 5.1 and 5.2. The point is you're taking what you've done previously in the other assignments and you're now applying it to this one. You're done.